And that's where we wind up referencing some things like Animal Crossing and Stardew Valley, etc. Like we want the world's chronology to play a part in some of what's going on as well. We don't want the zones to feel static. We want them to feel static enough to always be familiar and you get to know them, etc. We don't necessarily, the focus isn't in removing stuff, but those opportunities where we now know a lot about live operations that we didn't know in 1999. And that even goes into ideas like greater focus on things like world events than like on static rating. You know, that's something that we're discussing. It's something I believe in. And some of it is also to hit what Ryle just said or asked. Will there be exploration points? I always hate finding epic waterfalls and thinking, you know, if I was a developer, I'd hide some small thing behind there, and then there's nothing behind the waterfall. It's funny. There was a waterfall here. So I took the waterfall out just because it looked out of place. And so there was a waterfall there that then flowed down here. That was in there just as kind of like a little reminder to me. And just honestly to be able to talk about what you just said. So that waterfall should have something behind it. Now, that waterfall's thing that's behind it may not make itself known unless the moons are in a certain alignment or unless you're a certain way of, you've got a certain item on you or you're at a certain point in your career, that sort of thing. Just don't add a Tom Nook bastard. Given the emotions that he stirs in you, why wouldn't we? So it's in Draconian. Thank you for the follow. It's one of those things that has stuck with me ever since I played the first Ultima that I played. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 on like the monochrome Apple IIe or whatever in the library. The Moon Gates. And maybe they weren't in the early ones, but I thought they were. But like the Moon Gates, you know, the fact that they take you different places depending on the moon cycle. I've been wanting to play around with stuff like that forever. Zoidberg says, I would say that I'm opposed to level gating content completely, but I can understand how it expands longevity. I think there might be a balance to be found there. Yeah, Ali. The pronunciation. Alcabath? I forget. Was that pre-Ultima? I'm forgetting my history. Kinser said it. I think a good way to think of it might be like D&D campaign set in Faerun. You can play a ton of campaigns set in that world and still be unable to say that you've played every area in that game world. So that's the goal with some of the stuff that we've been talking about. Like, because people come in here and they're like, has every quest been found? Right? And that's such important or such a powerful concept that it's like, all right, so how could we set that up to actually be the case that 20 years later everything hasn't been found?